We've heard a lot over the past decade and a half about the energy sector as a reason for a large share of the carbon emissions that are a cause of climate change, but we've heard very little about how the energy sector might be impacted by climate change when those impacts could be considerable. A couple of years ago, the Interagency Climate Change Science Program commissioned the first comprehensive assessment of these climate change risks and vulnerabilities for the energy sector in the U.S. And I'm going to summarize what this assessment found out about implications of climate change for critical energy infrastructures in coastal regions. But let me first update the context for thinking about these kinds of risks and vulnerabilities. In the past several years, scientists observing what's happening with global climate change have noticed two things. Number one, physical impacts of climate change are emerging faster than was projected even 7 or 8 years ago. Number two, greenhouse gas emissions worldwide are increasing faster than what had been assumed in any climate change scenario we've ever taken seriously. When we put these two observations together, our conclusion is that risks of relatively severe climate change are greater than we've been projecting. These two facts suggest that the kinds of implications I'm going to mention could, by the mid to longer terms at least, become pretty serious. Okay, the main impact concerns, aside from Alaska, are two. First, severe storms along with some sea level rise, and second, water availability. But the big issues differ according to the coastal region. For the Gulf Coast, Florida, and the rest of the coastal southeast, the main concern is with the intensification of severe weather events along with sea level rise, which threaten the reliability and security of critical oil, gas, and electricity infrastructures, both onshore and offshore. Other important concerns for this region are significantly higher demands for electricity for cooling as temperatures rise, and possibly some seasonal water shortages for the cooling of power plants inland that supply electricity for coastal areas. For the coastal northeast, the main concern is with coastal flooding from severe weather events, along with increased demands for air conditioning and electricity for cooling. For the west coast, the main concern is with decreasing freshwater availability from spring and summer snowmelts in the western mountains, increasing the competition for scarce water between energy and other uses, possibly affecting electricity availability for coastal development, the energy-water nexus that this committee knows a lot about. For Alaska, the main effects, not all necessarily negative depending on one's point of view, include effects on energy infrastructures of the thawing permafrost, which are already being observed, effects on oil and gas exploration and production, which might get easier in some ways, and effects of ice cap melting on energy transport along the North Slope, which could be interesting. These very brief comments just touch on the high points of what we think we know, but I hope they're a useful start for the rest of the hearing. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.